Chapter 1049. I want you to get out of the Blood Chi Tower. Bloody Rose chuckled, but there was a cold arc in her eyes. She was full of disgust for Bailey Hongzhuang in any way. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Bloody Rose as if she was looking at an idiot. She didn't understand why this woman had inexplicably appeared and said something to her. She even told her to leave the Blood Chi Tower. What was she relying on? In the Blood Chi field, except for the arena, no one could fight in other places. Therefore, what Bloody Rose said would not work at all. What's more, even if Bloody Rose went to the arena with her, it would be to her liking. After all, she came to the second floor of the Blood Chi Tower today for the challenge tournament. Since Bloody Rose wanted to go to the arena, she could accompany her directly. Challenge tournament? Bailey Hongzhuang looked calm. No problem. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Bloody Rose suddenly laughed, shaking with laughter. She glanced at the practitioners around her with infinite amorous feelings. I, Bloody Rose, want you to get out of the Blood Chi field. Do I need to do it myself? It's stupid for a woman to rely on herself for everything. I only need to say a word, and these men will fight for me. Can you do it? Looking at Bloody Rose's complacent look, Bailey Hongzhuang looked around. Indeed, many men seemed to be waiting for Bloody Rose's call. After seeing Bloody Rose's amorous appearance, the other women present could not help but feel a trace of envy in their hearts. In this Blood Chi field, the most famous woman was Bloody Rose. However, they could not compare with Bloody Rose's amorous feelings at all. She had always been the focus of everyone here. However, in the face of Bloody Rose's provocation, Bailey Hongzhuang did not take it to heart at all. You let others work for you. Naturally, you have to pay something. I can do it, but I don't want to pay. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was calm. The world had always been so fair. She knew very well why these men were willing to work for Bloody Rose. It wasn't that she couldn't do it, but she wasn't willing to do it. Most importantly, she never felt that there was anything wrong with relying on her own strength. On the contrary, relying on her own strength was the best. With Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Bloody Rose was stunned for a moment. Bailey Hongzhuang's words directly hit the point. Indeed, she had lived in the blood-ground abyss for so long, so she was very familiar with these things. It was precisely because of this that she hated Bailey Hongzhuang's arrogance and purity. She found her to be an eyesore. Once upon a time, she was also such a person. But now, everything had changed. She came to the blood-ground abyss because all the women here were the same as her. Not only that, all the women here envied her. However, she actually envied Bailey Hongzhuang. Bloody Rose was stunned for a short moment. Soon, she returned to her usual enchanting appearance. Don't be so proud of yourself. You just don't have that kind of ability. Bloody Rose smiled enchantingly and looked at the surrounding cultivators. Who is willing to compete with Bailey Hongzhuang for me? As soon as the voice came out, the eyes of all the cultivators present were filled with excitement. Bloody Rose, I'll help you. Where did this kid come from? How can Bloody Rose need your help? I'll do it. Chapter 1050. Almost at the same time, all the men present stood up and expressed their willingness to work for the Bloody Rose. Because no one could stop the style of the Bloody Rose. But over the years, it was more and more difficult to gain the favor of the Bloody Rose. Now that the Bloody Rose spoke again, they naturally could not miss this opportunity. After seeing this scene, the women on the second floor of the Blood Tower also showed envious expressions. If one day, they could be admired by all men like the Bloody Rose, that would be their biggest dream. The Bloody Rose looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with an enchanting smile, and her raised eyebrows revealed an enchanting posture. Now do you understand? This is the gap between you and me. The Bloody Rose raised her chin, and her posture was very proud. This was her charm. In the Blood Tower, she was the most charming woman, and no one could compare with her. Bailey Hongzhuang's appearance was a threat to her position. Towards women she didn't like, she was never polite. She would destroy all the women who were better than herself. Because she was the best. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the arrogant Bloody Rose in front of her, and a sneer appeared on her lips. Everyone had their own pursuits. She admitted that the Bloody Rose was indeed very charming, but this could not make her envious at all. On the contrary, she felt that such a Bloody Rose was ridiculous and pitiful. What was more, the Bloody Rose came to trouble her, so she naturally would not be polite. On the first floor of the Blood Tower, she saw a group of crazy men, and on the second floor of the Blood Tower, she saw a group of crazy women. On this kind of thing, she was not willing to argue with the Bloody Rose, because the Bloody Rose had already been blinded and could not see anything else. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang did not say more, the Bloody Rose only thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was afraid of her, and she was more proud. She immediately chuckled and said, "Is there anyone here who is willing to fight for Bailey Hongzhuang?" The Bloody Rose was sure that in front of her, no man would stand up for Bailey Hongzhuang. However, as soon as the Bloody Rose's voice came out, a low and magnetic voice sounded. "Me." His deep and magnetic voice was filled with charm and dominance. Just listening to this voice was unforgettable. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice at the same time. They wanted to see who was the one who said that. There was a slight anger in the eyes of Bloody Rose. She was in a bad mood. She wanted to see who dared to disrespect her. However, when Bloody Rose saw the person clearly, she was absent-minded for a moment. She boasted that she had seen many men in her life, but this was the first time she had seen such a noble and elegant man. He was like a blazing sun, attracting everyone's attention the moment he appeared, becoming the focus of everyone's attention. His nobility seemed to be innate. Just by standing there, it was as if he was high up and looked down on everything. She had never seen such a noble and extraordinary man. Just one look was enough to make people want to submit to him. Bewitching walked to the side of Bailey Hongzhuang and stood still. He put one hand directly on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder and said, "I will fight for her." A sharp light flashed through the deep and charming eyes. This woman dared to make sarcastic remarks about his wife? Chapter 1051. After everyone saw Bewitching appear, all the practitioners on the second floor of the Blood Chi Tower were stunned for a moment. Just by looking at this man's temperament, they could feel that this man was extraordinary. This was an innate temperament, which could not be imitated by others. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Bewitching beside her in surprise. She did not expect that Bewitching would suddenly appear. It was really beyond her expectation. Bewitching looked at the doubt in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, and the corners of his mouth raised in an evil and perfect arc. He understood what Bailey Hongzhuang was thinking. Although he had said that as long as Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't in danger, he wouldn't make a move. However, the situation now was different. The Bloody Rose was laughing at his wife's lack of charm. At this time, as her husband, if he did not stand up, wouldn't he allow other women to bully his wife? Although he knew that with Bailey Hongzhuang's temperament, she wouldn't take it to heart. However, just because Bailey Hongzhuang didn't care, it didn't mean that he didn't care. Although Bailey Hongzhuang was a little surprised, she also knew that Bewitching was standing up for her. Her beautiful and refined face slowly bloomed with a smile. This man really could not bear to see her suffer any grievances. At the moment when Bailey Hongzhuang showed a smile, the men present all looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with infatuation. They had never seen Bailey Hongzhuang smile. Her previous cold appearance made them feel holy, which could only be seen from a distance and could not be touched. However, at this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang's smile was like a melting snow mountain, with a shocking beauty. If Bailey Hongzhuang's previous frosty appearance was similar to the amorous feelings of the Bloody Rose in their eyes, now Bailey Hongzhuang's sweet smile had completely defeated the Bloody Rose. Such a Bloody Rose could not be compared with Bailey Hongzhuang at all, because the charm could be practiced, but the appearance and temperament could not be imitated. My God, I didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be so beautiful when she smiles. My heart is melting. Who is this man? Bailey Hongzhuang let him hold her. If I had known this, I would have been the first to answer when the Bloody Rose asked. I heard that this man and Bailey Hongzhuang know each other. He should be Bailey Hongzhuang's lover. Yesterday, Bailey Hongzhuang made too much noise on the first floor of the Blood Chi Tower, so when she left, there were many practitioners' attention. Everyone noticed that Bailey Hongzhuang walked into the inn with a man. Obviously, that man should be the man in front of them. After knowing the relationship between Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching, everyone was a little envious, but they had to admit that Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching were a match made in heaven. The Bloody Rose looked at the handsome man in front of her in a daze. She only felt that her heart, which had not beat for so many years, beat again after seeing this man. This man seemed to have the power to capture people's souls. Even if he just looked at her indifferently, she could not control her heartbeat. However, after seeing Bewitching's gentle and doting smile to Bailey Hongzhuang, a strong jealousy emerged in her eyes. Chapter 1052. Although her heart had been swept by this jealousy, Bloody Rose also recovered her original look in a very short time. She asked herself that Bailey Hongzhuang's style couldn't be compared with hers at all. Only she was a woman who could really make a man want and be unable to give up. As long as she played a little trick, this man would definitely fall under her pomegranate skirt. Over the years, such examples were too numerous to mention. She had absolute confidence in herself. The next moment, Bloody Rose directly approached Bewitching. The tempting plump directly touched Bewitching's arm. Her smile was enchanting and charming. "Young master, how should I address you?" Bloody Rose's phoenix eyes narrowed slightly. She looked at Bewitching with a blurred look. The seduction in her look was obvious. It was rare to see such a tempting man. She would never give up. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Bloody Rose like this. Her expression also changed a little. Her deep phoenix eyes were filled with a trace of coldness. She suddenly felt that her disgust for Bloody Rose had increased a level. Bewitching frowned slightly. Bloody Rose's posture was also beyond his expectation. There was an unconcealable disgust in his eyes. Perhaps for other men, Bloody Rose's posture was called amorous. But for him, except for his wife, all other women were nothingness. Just as Bewitching was about to break away from Bloody Rose, Bailey Hongzhuang made a move that surprised people. Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly pulled out the hairpin in her hair. Her hair fell down in an instant, making her, who was originally arrogant and indifferent, have a charming woman's posture. Her beautiful face was filled with an enchanting and charming smile. Bailey Hongzhuang also held Bewitching's shoulder. Her blurred eyes were full of infinite amorous feelings. Everyone was surprised to find that as long as Bailey Hongzhuang removed that layer of unapproachable coldness, even if she didn't do anything, she was still a seductive beauty, making it impossible for people to turn their eyes away. Her every move was full of infinite amorous feelings, mixed with purity and charm, coldness and heat. This contradictory and extreme temperament appeared on her at the same time, making everyone realize what was called real charm. The next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang made a bold move in front of everyone. She suddenly stood on tiptoe, her red lips close to Bewitching's ear, and gently breathed. "Am I charming, or is she charming?" Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's seductive appearance, Bewitching's eyes also flashed a hidden desire. He had always been a person with strong self-control, but in the face of Bailey Hongzhuang, he felt that all his self-control was collapsing. This woman was born to be his nemesis. All the men present unconsciously swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Bewitching didn't need to answer, everyone could help him answer. "My God, this Bailey Hongzhuang is simply a seductress. I didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to have such a side. Bloody Rose can't be compared with Bailey Hongzhuang at all. If I can have such a woman, it's worth it to live a few decades less." Everyone looked at Bewitching enviously. This woman was the real stunner. Chapter 1053. He Mu looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in a daze. This young master's wife was too powerful. With the young master's wife's usual shy and indifferent character, such a thing was completely impossible. He didn't expect that this time under the provocation of Bloody Rose, she really went all out. Not to mention the young master, he was also blushing and his heart was beating fast. As for Bloody Rose, this kind of woman was not at the same level as the young master's wife at all. No matter from which point of view, the young master's wife was really charming and hard to resist. Over the years, he had seen a lot of famous ladies around the young master, but he swore that he thought the most charming woman was the young master's wife. Even if everyone said that Han Shilling was outstanding and was an outstanding figure among the young generation of women, he felt that the young master's wife was not as famous as Han Shilling because the young master's wife had not yet appeared in the eyes of others. When the young master brought the young master's wife back to Tiangang, he believed that many people would stand on the side of the young master's wife. Bloody Rose looked at Bailey Hongzhuang like this and was also stunned. It was reasonable to say that with Bailey Hongzhuang's temperament, it should be impossible to do such a thing, but Bailey Hongzhuang did it. In fact, her charm was not inferior to hers at all. She knew that her appearance was not as good as Bailey Hongzhuang. She thought that she could compete with Bailey Hongzhuang by relying on her charm, but now after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang like this, she understood that she could not compare with Bailey Hongzhuang. Bewitching did not hesitate to push away Bloody Rose, with disgust and contempt. If he had not come to the Bloodland Abyss, he would not have seen this kind of woman at all. His eyes did not even stay on Bloody Rose for a moment. Bewitching's attention was all on his little goblin. He lowered his voice and said in Bailey Hongzhuang's ear, "Wife, you seduce your husband like this, are you hinting something to your husband?" Listening to Bewitching's ambiguous and suggestive words, Bailey Hongzhuang's cheeks were quickly covered with a blush, and she glanced at Bewitching. "You think too much." However, even if Bailey Hongzhuang just glanced at Bewitching casually, in Bewitching's eyes were full of infinite flirtatious feelings. His wife, no matter what she did, could completely attract his heart. The whole second floor of the Bloodland Tower became quiet, and everyone's eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching. Obviously, these two people had become the focus of attention here, and Bewitching had become the object of envy of all the men present. "I heard that you want to find someone to compete with my wife?" Bewitching hugged Bailey Hongzhuang's slender waist, domineeringly declaring his identity, and his cold eyes fell on Bloody Rose. Chapter 1054. From the situation of Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching, it was obvious that these two people were not very easy to deal with. It would be difficult to get Bailey Hongzhuang. Although the Blood Rose couldn't be compared to Bailey Hongzhuang, compared to other women, this Blood Rose was also a rare top-quality product. Usually, they could not get this opportunity even if they wanted to. Now that they finally had this opportunity, they naturally would not let it go. Seeing Bloody Rose directly give such benefits, Bailey Hongzhuang was also somewhat speechless. What was the point of using such a way to sell oneself to win? Although Bailey Hongzhuang felt that Bloody Rose was somewhat pitiful, but a pitiful person must have something hateful. All this depravity was her own choice. Even she did not want to save herself, how could others help? Therefore, even the trace of sympathy in her heart was erased. Because, there was no need. "Bloody Rose, I'll help you fight. Bloody Rose, I'll do it." A group of men were like hungry wolves, looking at Bloody Rose with green eyes. Obviously, Bloody Rose was a delicious cake in their eyes. After seeing this scene, Bloody Rose, who had been slightly hit, smiled again. At least, in the hearts of these men, her position had not changed. Bailey Hongzhuang looked up at Bewitching. She did not know whether Bewitching was really ready to go to the ring or just joking. After all, the person who really wanted to participate in the challenge tournament today was her. However, Bewitching had shown his thoughts with actions. He would not allow anyone to treat his wife with such an attitude. When a man was needed to appear, he naturally would not let Hongzhuang deal with it alone. Bewitching stood on the ring. That noble and handsome face was filled with indifference and indifference. He did not say anything, but there was a terrifying momentum that filled the air. Just like when he appeared, it made people unconsciously panic. However, this sluggishness only lasted for a short period of time. Very quickly, a man took the lead and leaped onto the stage. Youngsters nowadays are getting more and more arrogant. I'll teach you a lesson and let you know that you should keep a low profile when you're young. A 25-year-old man appeared in front of Bewitching. The man was thin and wretched like a monkey. His gaze towards Bewitching was filled with malice. As a man himself, he hated arrogant guys like Bewitching the most. It was as if he was the most powerful person in the world. He liked Bloody Rose for a long time. Although Bloody Rose was passionate, she was neither friendly nor distant to everyone. It was not easy to be with Bloody Rose. However, the man just appeared today, and the Bloody Rose began to take the initiative to throw herself into his arms, which made him very dissatisfied. He wanted to prove to Bloody Rose that the guy in front of her was a good-for-nothing except for his appearance. However, Bewitching had no intention of responding to the man's words. This kind of guy was not even worthy to talk to him. The referee quickly recorded the identities of the two people, but after hearing the words that Bewitching whispered in his ear, the referee's expression clearly froze for a moment, revealing shock and astonishment, as if he couldn't believe what he had heard. Chapter 1055. However, the referee's next words completely stunned everyone. This is a private battle, so no bets are allowed. Now, let the battle begin. As soon as his voice fell, the referee walked down the stage, leaving the entire ring to Bewitching and Bewitching. Everyone stared at the judge in surprise. They did not understand why the judge would suddenly say something like that. After all, the judges of the Blood Chi Tower had always been extraordinary existences. They were impervious to everything and had a certain status in the blood-ground abyss. Normally, no one could make a judge do something out of line. However, Bewitching had only whispered something into the judge's ear, and the judge had made such a decision. It was just too unbelievable. Although most of the time, cultivators who did not know each other would fight in the arena, there would definitely be many people who would settle the grudges between four people. This kind of competition with grudges between four people was usually very interesting to watch, and there had never been a situation where no bets were placed. However, the judge had actually said something like that. It was just too unbelievable. After seeing this scene, Bailey Hongzhuang's clear eyes were also filled with surprise. Although she hadn't stayed in the bloody abyss for a long time, according to her understanding during this period of time, such a situation shouldn't have happened. Bewitching had changed the judge's mind with just a few words. Could it be that Bewitching had a certain status in the Blood Chi Tower? Bailey Hongzhuang was rather confused. In fact, it would not have mattered even if she participated in the arena. That way, she could even make a fortune here. There was only one reason why Bewitching had done this, and that was that he did not want other cultivators to know his name. Why? Could it be? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. She immediately understood why Bewitching had done this. Thinking about it, Bewitching must have shocked everyone when he obtained the Blood Chi Tower's legacy. His name was like thunder in the blood-ground abyss now. If everyone knew his name now, he was worried that no one in the blood-ground abyss would dare to make a move on her. In this way, her experience here would lose a lot of excitement. After understanding this point, Bailey Hongzhuang was also very impressed with Bewitching because this man had seen through everything in a short time and even planned everything for her. However, the three beasts did not care about Bewitching's reason at all. They were completely immersed in their own emotions. Bewitching's move is different. He can directly break the rules of the Blood Chi Tower. These cultivators are completely scared. Xiao He jumped in joy. Every time Bewitching made a move, it was very happy. It felt very uncomfortable when Bloody Rose was so arrogant before. Now in this situation, they had completely won. That Bloody Rose is also asking for humiliation. Why can't she compare her beauty with anyone else? Yet he wants to compete with Master. Isn't he courting death? Xiao Bai was also very proud. What kind of person was Master? Bloody Rose and Master were not at the same level at all. In the face of Xiao He and Xiao Bai's excited words, Baisher just kept nodding in agreement. When it came to eloquence, it could not compare with Xiao He and Xiao Bai. Chapter 1056. Bloody Rose's eyes could not help but fall on Bailey Hongzhuang. Since Bailey Hongzhuang appeared here, she felt uncomfortable all over. Originally, the second floor of the Blood Chi Tower was her world. She had never had a problem driving anyone away. However, Bailey Hongzhuang had become a great variable. The man who suddenly appeared beside Bailey Hongzhuang also showed absolute extraordinariness. She had been in the Blood Chi Tower for a long time. Over the years, she had never seen a person like Bewitching, who could make the referee obey him with only one word. His identity was probably extremely amazing. The Blood Chi Tower had always been a magical place. The Blood Chi Tower had existed in the Bloodland Abyss for so long, and the money it had earned was simply amazing. However, no one knew where the money flowed to. Was it possible that Bewitching had a connection with the owner of the Blood Chi Tower? Thinking of this possibility, Bloody Rose felt that it was incredible. It was really incredible. However, apart from this, she could not think of any other reason. No matter what the reason was, even if Bewitching had bribed the referee, Bewitching could do this, which had proved that Bewitching was extraordinary. Over the years, it was not that no one had tried to bribe the referee, but no one had been able to do it. In the arena, Bewitching looked at the man in front of him indifferently. Even though the competition had begun, his leisurely appearance did not seem like he was going to fight at all. Faced with Bewitching's indifference, the man had been angry. He wanted to teach Bewitching a good lesson, but he did not expect that Bewitching would be so arrogant. On the contrary, he did not know what to do. Since you are so arrogant, let's see who's the real deal. The man's eyes were as cold as a viper's. He wished he could kill Bewitching immediately. Because such disregard was a form of humiliation. However, Bewitching didn't think that way at all. Such an opponent couldn't arouse his interest at all. He was just waiting for the man to attack first. However, the man spoke so much nonsense but didn't make a move, which made him feel a little helpless. Finally, when the man could no longer endure Bewitching's indifference and contempt, the origin energy in his body instantly surged out. His body moved violently and directly charged towards Bewitching. He wanted to let Bewitching know how powerful he was. When the cultivators in the stands saw the man's posture, a hint of surprise appeared in their eyes. They did not expect that this man looked so ordinary, but his strength was not weak. Bloody Rose's eyes also fell on the high platform. Although the man showed good strength, she faintly felt that the man seemed to be no match for Bewitching at all. Compared with the curious appearance of the crowd, Bailey Hongzhuang and He Mu looked very indifferent. This was a battle without any suspense at all. If Bewitching lost, it would be a great miracle. Even though the man had already rushed to Bewitching's noble and handsome face still did not show any ripples, and he did not even raise his eyes. Naked contempt, without any concealment. Seeing Bewitching's attitude, the crowd was speechless for a while. Chapter 1057. Everyone looked at Bewitching with disdain. The bearing that Bewitching showed before was indeed extraordinary, but at this time, he still only cared about putting on an act. That was too stupid. The man's fist fiercely attacked Bewitching's neck. From the light of the elemental energy that burst out, everyone had no doubt that once the man's fist landed, Bewitching's life would not be guaranteed. As his fist got closer and closer to Bewitching, the man's eyes flashed with excitement. He couldn't wait for Bewitching to continue being so arrogant and continue to stand in the same place as a target for him to defeat. In this way, his reputation in the Blood Chi Tower would also spread, and Bloody Rose would also become his woman. At the thought of this, the man couldn't help but feel excited. Just when the man was very close to Bewitching suddenly made a move. With just a casual finger, Bewitching pressed against the man's glabella. Then, the whole ring seemed to be stagnant. Everyone saw that the man suddenly stopped moving. His fist was only a few centimeters away from Bewitching's neck, but the man's fist didn't move forward. What's going on? Is he stupid? As long as his fist moved forward a little, he would have succeeded. Only a few cultivators with good eyesight had a look of disbelief in their eyes. Di Bei-chen had just casually pointed a finger. They hadn't even seen the fluctuation of elemental energy, but the power of this finger was actually so great. In the next moment, Di Bei-chen withdrew his finger and looked at the crowd below the ring. Is there anyone else who wants to come up? Everyone was puzzled to see that after Di Bei-chen left, the man still maintained his previous motionless action. It was really strange. Bang! Suddenly, the sound of a heavy object falling to the ground was heard. Everyone saw that the man's figure fell straight to the ground, and there was no sound at all. Seeing this scene, everyone present showed a shocked look. Judging from the aura that this man exuded before, this man's strength was not weak. Who would have thought that such a simple finger would instantly kill this man? Then, how strong was Di Bei-chen? Bloody Rose stared at the tall golden figure on the high platform. Although she was angry, she was more appreciative and admiring. Such a perfect man with looks, temperament, and strength was simply every woman's dream. However, the more outstanding Di Bei-chen was, the more jealous she was of Bailey Hongzhuang. This woman was actually his wife. She admitted that Di Bei-chen was extraordinary, but she didn't want to admit that Bailey Hongzhuang was also extraordinary. She knew in her heart that only a woman like Bailey Hongzhuang was truly worthy of Di Bei-chen, but she just couldn't accept it. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a smile, and Di Bei-chen's figure was reflected in her deep black eyes. She had to admit that this man was really perfect. Especially at the moment when he stood up for her, he shone brightly and no one could compare with him. Di Bei-chen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a faint smile. His wife's expression just now was clearly seen by him. Feeling Di Bei-chen's gaze, Bailey Hongzhuang restrained her expression and just smiled faintly. Who else? Di Bei-chen asked again. However, everyone looked at the dead man on the stage, and no one had the courage to stand up. Chapter 1058. Bloody Rose glanced at all the men present, but found that everyone was hesitant. Undoubtedly, they were frightened by Di Bei-chen's strength. None of you dare to go up. Bloody Rose could not hide the anger in her eyes. She looked at all the people present with dissatisfaction. She did not expect these people to be so cowardly. In the face of Bloody Rose's eyes, although some practitioners were very hesitant, they finally chose to give up. Although beautiful women were good, they also needed to be alive to enjoy them. If Di Bei-chen had just finished the battle with the man, they might still have the courage to stand up. However, Di Bei-chen's performance just now was really amazing. They didn't know how Di Bei-chen did it. In the face of such an unbreakable finger, they could only choose to give up. Bailey Hongzhuang's hands were around her chest, her delicate chin was slightly raised, and her eyes were full of provocation when she looked at Bloody Rose. Noticing Bailey Hongzhuang's provocation, Bloody Rose's face had turned purple. Previously, she was still clamoring for Bailey Hongzhuang to get out of the Blood Tower. She did not expect that in a short time, it seemed that she and Bailey Hongzhuang's identity had been exchanged. Di Bei-chen saw that no one dared to come up to challenge again, and then he walked down from the martial arts arena. He did not intend to fight with these people too much. Since these people were so sensible, it saved him a lot of effort. Di Bei-chen slowly walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's side. His deep and bright eyes were filled with a faint smile. Today, he saw another side of his wife. With Bailey Hongzhuang's character, if it was a normal day, she would not compete with Bloody Rose at all. The reason why she did that just now was probably because of him. At the thought of Bailey Hongzhuang, who was usually indifferent and alienated, becoming a kitten that had been baring its fangs and brandishing its claws for him, the smile in his eyes could not help but deepen. His wife, after all, cared about him very much. Bloody Rose looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Bei-chen, who were standing together, and the jealousy in her eyes gradually deepened. The appearance of these two people brought her incomparable irony. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Bloody Rose faintly. Even if you are here, so what if there are more men who agree with you? You can't even compare to my husband. As soon as these words came out, Bloody Rose's face suddenly became livid. Bailey Hongzhuang was slapping her in the face. Indeed, she had originally thought that her popularity in the Blood Chi Tower was unparalleled. So many men were willing to give up everything for her. But now, the appearance of Bewitching actually made these people shrink their heads. So what if she had the adoration of thousands of men? She couldn't compare to the one and only one. After Bewitching heard Bailey Hongzhuang's words, he tightened his grip around Bailey Hongzhuang's waist. His wife actually called him husband in front of everyone. Usually, Bailey Hongzhuang had never called him that. There was a trace of joy in his heart. He only felt that when Bailey Hongzhuang said these two words, it was particularly lovely. What are you proud of? Bloody Rose's face was gloomy. Didn't you say that you were very powerful? Don't you rely on men in the end? Bloody Rose's mind was full of thoughts. She was absolutely unwilling to lose to Bailey Hongzhuang like this. Looking at Bloody Rose's hateful appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferent. In fact, if it were not for Bloody Rose's continuous provocation, she would not bother to pay attention to it. Chapter 1059. After saying that, Bailey Hongzhuang did not look at Bloody Rose. At this moment, Bloody Rose was like a clown. She was too lazy to pay attention to her. Raising her phoenix-like eyes slightly, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Bewitching. She came here today for the challenge tournament. But the sudden appearance of Bloody Rose delayed her plan. Now it was time to continue the battle. Noticing Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, Bewitching immediately understood and nodded immediately. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Her beautiful face was even more beautiful. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching's tacit understanding, Bloody Rose was even more jealous. Ordinary people would not have this kind of tacit understanding at all. Then, Bailey Hongzhuang went directly to the arena. Her indifferent eyes glanced at the practitioners present and said, "Who wants to come up?" As soon as she said that, the practitioners present could not help but be stunned. They did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang dared to go to the arena at this moment. They could not defeat Bewitching, but it was not difficult to defeat Bailey Hongzhuang. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang do this, Bloody Rose's eyes showed a touch of joy. What she wanted was for Bailey Hongzhuang to do this. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang died in the arena, then all these problems would not exist. Whoever can defeat her, my promise is still effective. With Bloody Rose's words, a touch of passion flashed in the eyes of the practitioners present again. Previously, they were really frightened by Bewitching's strength. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's strength could not be as strong as Bewitching's. Defeating Bailey Hongzhuang was much easier than defeating Bewitching. As for killing Bailey Hongzhuang, such a great beauty, if they really wanted to kill her, they really couldn't bear it. Perhaps he could even take advantage of Bailey Hongzhuang in this arena. With such a stunning beauty, as long as he could take advantage of her, it would be a great joy. Although Bewitching was very strong, other than the arena, no one was allowed to fight in the Blood Chi Tower, so they didn't need to worry. Hence, when the crowd saw Bailey Hongzhuang walk up to the stage, they began to stir. In the blink of an eye, a man had already leaped onto the stage. "Beauty, I'll compete with you." The referee walked up to the ring and recorded the identities of Bailey Hongzhuang and the man. Soon, the betting odds were out. However, based on their battle records, the man's odds were lower than Bailey Hongzhuang's. This meant that the Blood Chi Tower was more optimistic about the man's strength. Seeing this, the cultivators present began to place their bets one after another. After what happened just now, they were even more interested in this match. Bewitching gave He Mu a look. He Mu immediately understood and immediately walked to the betting area. At this time, he naturally bet on the young madam winning. The crowd also realized that He Mu was Bewitching's follower. When they saw He Mu throw in a large amount of gold coins, the crowd's expression changed. It seemed that Bailey Hongzhuang and Bailey Hongzhuang not only had an extraordinary bearing and great strength, but their financial resources were also very shocking. This amount was already considered a huge bet in the Blood Chi Tower. After placing his bet, Heimu returned to Bewitching's side and the two of them sat down in the spectators' stand. Chapter 1060. The female attendants on the second floor of the Blood Chi Tower had already regarded Bewitching as their Prince Charming. This man was simply every woman's Prince Charming. In a moment, the group of women had already made Bailey Hongzhuang their new target. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang had said, so what if there were so many men here who adored her? It would be better to capture Bewitching alone. This was because Bewitching alone was more important than all the men present. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the man in front of her. The man was about 23 years old and had a perfectly round body, which made him look even shorter than he already was. He stood there like a winter melon, but his narrow eyes flickered with a shrewd and lecherous light. At this moment, he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with an unbridled gaze, obviously intending to take advantage of Bailey Hongzhuang in this competition. Of course, this man was not the only one who had such thoughts. Many of the men present had the same thought. If they could take advantage of this competition to get close to Bailey Hongzhuang, it would be a great joy for them. Noticing the lecherous light in his eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with disgust. She hated this kind of gaze the most. It made her feel uncomfortable from the bottom of her heart. Let the competition begin. Following the referee's command, Bailey Hongzhuang and the man immediately got into position. Bailey Hongzhuang did not intend to waste too much time with the man. She wanted to end this battle quickly. Hence, Bailey Hongzhuang's figure flew over and did not give the man any time to think. She suddenly attacked. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang did not take out the colored glazed sword. Yesterday's battle with the 4 bronze men in the trial had given her some insights. She could take advantage of today's opportunity to integrate her insights. This was one of the great benefits of the Bloodground Abyss. In this place, there was no need to worry about not having opponents. When the man saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was preparing to engage in close combat with him, the excitement in his eyes became even more intense. This was what he was looking forward to the most. When the men present saw Bailey Hongzhuang's decision, their hearts were filled with envy. If they had known that there would be such an opportunity, they would have rushed up first. Now, this fatty had actually taken advantage of them. Bloody Rose's lips raised a sneer, as if she was mocking Bailey Hongzhuang's behavior. Bailey Hongzhuang had pretended to be aloof before, but now she actually used such a method to fight. Wasn't this equivalent to slapping her own face? Bloody Rose turned around and wanted to know what kind of expression Bewitching would have after seeing such a situation. After all, Bailey Hongzhuang's current approach was suspicious of ambiguity. However, Bloody Rose looked at Bewitching's indifferent appearance, as if Bailey Hongzhuang's approach had not exceeded his expectations at all. Thinking of this, Bloody Rose could not help but frown. It was reasonable to say that any man who saw this scene would not be able to bear it. The next second, Bloody Rose suddenly got up and walked to Bewitching's side and sat down. There were many cultivators near the stands, but because of Bewitching's previous display of strength, no one dared to approach. Therefore, the position next to Bewitching was empty. Chapter 1061. Feeling Bewitching's disregard, Bloody Rose's expression did not change, which was not beyond her expectation. Your wife doesn't seem to be so pure. Bloody Rose spoke slowly, but her eyes were constantly looking at Bewitching, wanting to know Bewitching's thoughts. Bewitching turned his eyes and looked at Bloody Rose beside him. His handsome chin, which was as sharp as a knife, showed a cold and hard arc, and the words he said were even colder and more heartless. Stay away from me. As soon as the words came out, Bloody Rose's face was stiff for a moment. She did not expect Bewitching to speak so coldly and impolitely. Do you think it's not good for me? Bloody Rose asked tentatively. According to her understanding over the years, men should like her amorous feelings. Why was the man in front of her not interested in her at all? My wife is not someone you can compare with. Get out. Bewitching's voice was cold, with warning and no doubt. With Bewitching's voice falling, Bloody Rose only felt that her whole body was shrouded by a kind of pressure, and she was so scared that she could not move. This man's momentum was really amazing. The most important thing was that the man showed disgust and decisiveness, which deeply hurt her heart. It was obvious that other women could not get into his heart except Bailey Hongzhuang. Thinking of this, Bloody Rose could not help but feel jealous and disappointed. But in the face of Bewitching's overbearing and decisive words, she did not dare to continue to stay here. Looking at Bewitching's indifferent and decisive eyes, she had no doubt that if she continued to stand here, Bewitching would never be polite to her. Bloody Rose stood up awkwardly and returned to her previous place. She was just not reconciled. It was rare for her to see a man who could make her surrender over the years, but this man did not like her at all. After seeing that Bloody Rose failed to seduce Bewitching one after another, people's expressions changed a little. However, in the eyes of more people, Bloody Rose was indeed not worthy of Bewitching. Blackwood looked at Bloody Rose who was leaving. There was a trace of mockery in his eyes. A woman like her wouldn't even have the chance to talk to the young lord normally. Now, she actually wanted to be the young lord's woman. How ridiculous. On the stage, Bailey Hongzhuang was already fighting with the man at lightning speed. With yesterday's enlightenment, she was able to fight with the man much more smoothly today. The man's cultivation was also at the 4th level of the Red Realm, so it was not difficult for her. Even without using any martial skills, Bailey Hongzhuang dealt with them extremely quickly. Suddenly, Bailey Hongzhuang turned around and grabbed the man's hand. She pulled hard and the man's hand was dislocated. The man turned sideways and tried to escape from Bailey Hongzhuang's control. However, he did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would directly chop him in the neck. Bang! Bailey Hongzhuang was merciless. With a chop, the man fell heavily to the ground and fainted immediately. Everyone thought that the man could take advantage of this opportunity to take advantage of Bailey Hongzhuang. They did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would make the man have no chance to take advantage of her at all. On the contrary, Bailey Hongzhuang's attack was extremely neat, and her close combat ability was obviously excellent. Bailey Hongzhuang wins. Chapter 1062. After the referee announced the result, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a faint smile as she looked at Bewitching. Bewitching nodded to Bailey Hongzhuang with appreciation in his eyes. He could feel the changes in Bailey Hongzhuang after she came to the Bloodland Abyss. Her progress was very good. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's progress, he was also very pleased. His woman would become stronger little by little. After everyone saw that Bailey Hongzhuang defeated the cultivator at the 4th level of the Red Realm so easily, there was a touch of surprise in their eyes. They already knew yesterday that Bailey Hongzhuang defeated Xiong Kai at the 6th level of the Red Realm, but they did not take it seriously. Because, even if the cultivation was high, the strength was not necessarily strong. They were able to reach the 2nd floor of the Blood Chi Tower and had experienced a lot of competitions. Such examples were not unheard of, on the contrary, there were many. It was precisely because of this that when they heard the news, they only thought that Bailey Hongzhuang's opponent was too weak, but they never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was too strong. At this moment, seeing Bailey Hongzhuang winning so easily, they felt that their previous ideas might be a little wrong. Bailey Hongzhuang was not very weak. Bloody Rose's face was also a little ugly. What she wanted to see was Bailey Hongzhuang being defeated and rolling down the ring. It would be best if Bailey Hongzhuang died directly in the ring. However, things did not go as she wished. Bailey Hongzhuang won. After winning a game, Bailey Hongzhuang did not directly go down the ring, but continued to say, "Who's next?" Since others said that she was arrogant, she would be arrogant all the way here. Arrogance was never a problem. The problem was that she dared to be arrogant without strength. Obviously, she was not such a person. In the Bloodland Abyss, there were many arrogant cultivators. Anyone who was not arrogant could go up and compete with them. Similarly, she did not care about others saying that she was arrogant. On the contrary, this could save her a lot of trouble. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang continue to challenge, everyone could not help but think of Bailey Hongzhuang's action on the first floor of the Blood Chi Tower yesterday. Would she be preparing to do the same thing on the second floor? Bailey Hongzhuang doesn't want to get 10 consecutive victories here, does she? She's too bold. She is a newcomer with a little strength. She really thinks she is great. Brother, go up and teach her a lesson. The strength is on the second floor. The strength is strengths. Is death's door. No one was optimistic about Bailey Hongzhuang. The same thing could not be repeated. Bailey Hongzhuang's action was undoubtedly provoking them all. Bailey Hongzhuang took in the expressions of the audience, but in her heart, she didn't care at all. Young Master, does young Madam really plan to challenge 10 people in a row? He Mu was a little incredulous. This was not a simple matter. From the discussions of the surrounding cultivators, he vaguely understood that young Madam seemed to have done this yesterday. However, Bewitching smiled faintly. Why not? His woman was the same as him. They both had a kind of arrogance in their hearts. This kind of arrogance might be hateful in the eyes of others, but it was not a bad thing for them. It was to protect this arrogance that they could keep moving forward. Chapter 1063. Seeing Bewitching's confident smile, He Mu was stunned for a moment. He did not expect the young master to be so confident in his wife's strength. For a moment, He Mu could not help but recall the time when the young madam and the young master went out for training. The young madam cultivated desperately under the waterfall. Her perseverance and unyielding character possessed a strength that no other woman possessed. It seemed that he had underestimated the young madam. Not long after Bailey Hongzhuang said that, another cultivator walked up to the ring. I'll do it. Bailey Hongzhuang was immersed in her comprehension of close-range combat. She could not wait for someone to give her a chance to practice. That cultivator from before was too weak. He was no match for her at all. Now that she saw another cultivator walking up to the ring, she was very excited. The referee registered the information of the two people very quickly, and the odds were also quickly announced. Now that the Blood Chi Tower had a new evaluation of Bailey Hongzhuang's strength, Bailey Hongzhuang's odds had decreased a lot. It was even lower than the cultivator's odds. The originally confident man's face turned ugly when he found out about the odds that the Blood Chi Tower had arranged for him. He did not expect the Blood Chi Tower to suddenly increase their evaluation of Bailey Hongzhuang's strength. Did this mean that the Blood Chi Tower thought that he would lose to a fledgling woman? Thinking of this, the man's eyes turned gloomy. However, the Blood Chi Tower was too powerful. He naturally did not dare to be dissatisfied with the Blood Chi Tower. Immediately, the man transferred all his anger to Bailey Hongzhuang. Although the match had not started yet, he had already been slapped in the face. Shui Huatian is usually a very arrogant person. I didn't expect the odds to be so high. What a joke. Isn't it obvious? The Blood Chi Tower thinks that Shui Huatian's strength is inferior to Bailey Hongzhuang. I've seen this guy fight before. He's not very strong. I'm afraid there's nothing to see in this match. Bailey Hongzhuang is going to win 2 matches in a row. Hearing the mocking words from below the stage, Shui Huatian's eyes became even gloomier. He secretly swore that he would use his fists to prove his strength. Bailey Hongzhuang also felt that the man in front of her was filled with endless hatred towards her. Her beautiful and refined face was indifferent and elegant. Even in the face of such hostile gazes, her eyes remained calm. Begin. As soon as the referee spoke, Bailey Hongzhuang seemed to have changed into another person. She was no longer as calm as before. Instead, she attacked as fast as lightning. Bang! It was just a simple collision, but Shui Huatian couldn't help but take 2 steps back. A hint of surprise appeared on his face. He had never placed Bailey Hongzhuang in his eyes. Now that they had exchanged blows, he realized that Bailey Hongzhuang's power was actually so terrifying. Previously, when he had seen Bailey Hongzhuang fighting against others, he had thought that her opponents were too weak and did not have any power at all. He never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang's power would be so abnormal. Forget about a woman, even a man of the same level of cultivation would not be able to wield such power. However, Bailey Hongzhuang completely ignored the shock in the man's heart. Her hands circled around like agile snakes. Her fingers, hands, elbows, knees, and legs all became her weapons. She attacked her opponent fiercely and violently. Chapter 1064. When He Mu saw Bailey Hongzhuang's clean and efficient attack, a look of amazement surfaced in his eyes. After not seeing her for a while, the young mistress's improvement in strength was truly shocking. She was on a completely different level from before. Bang! Following Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful side kick, Shui Huatian was directly kicked out of the arena by Bailey Hongzhuang. Shui Huatian fell heavily to the ground. Although Bailey Hongzhuang's kick was very heavy, Shui Huatian's injuries were not very serious. He subconsciously wanted to stand up, but being kicked out of the arena by Bailey Hongzhuang was even more humiliating than being killed. Shui Huatian felt that it was difficult to face the crowd's mocking gazes. Thinking of this, Shui Huatian simply pretended to faint. As long as he left the Blood Qi Tower now, he believed that everyone would gradually forget about this matter when he came back a few days later. In the arena, Bailey Hongzhuang saw that Shui Huatian had directly fainted and frowned slightly. Based on the situation of her attack just now, Shui Huatian should not have fainted. With a glance, Bailey Hongzhuang noticed Shui Huatian's slightly trembling eyelids and immediately understood. She did not expect Shui Huatian to be so thin-skinned. He was so arrogant before, but now he was actually pretending to be dead. Bailey Hongzhuang wins. The referee's voice rang out again. This time, the Blood Qi Tower finally made a correct assessment of strength. When the cultivators present saw that Bailey Hongzhuang had won again, their expressions changed again. I told you that trash like Shui Huatian is no match for Bailey Hongzhuang. It's normal for him to lose. It's a good thing that Bailey Hongzhuang did not kill him. Shui Huatian and his opponent only fainted. As soon as this was said, the crowd remembered that Bailey Hongzhuang only wanted to defeat her opponent and did not want to kill them, just like yesterday on the first floor. Next! Bailey Hongzhuang said indifferently as her gaze fell upon the spectator stand. Beads of sweat appeared on Bailey Hongzhuang's fair and smooth forehead, but her eyes revealed a carefree and satisfied smile. That round of close combat earlier, she expended quite a bit of strength. But the consumption of essence energy was very small. A cultivator's endurance was also a part of their strength. In her previous life, she had undergone endurance training. This was because, in times of danger, every bit of endurance increased the chances of survival. The strength of this body was much stronger than when she first crossed over, but there was still a big gap between it and her previous life. Everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's sweaty eyes. Her fair and perfect face was flushed red from the 2 rounds of competition, making her look extremely sweet and alluring. Bailey Hongzhuang has gone through 2 rounds of battle in a row. She's exhausted. Now's the best time to go up and fight. The crowd's eyes lit up. They could judge Bailey Hongzhuang's current state from her expression. The later she went up, the higher their chances of success. Suddenly, another cultivator leaped up. He could not miss such a good opportunity. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the cultivator who had appeared before her again. Her bright, pitch-black eyes surged with battle intent and the smile on her lips widened. She had not fought to her heart's content in a long time. Thinking of this, He Mu was sincerely happy for the young master. Bang! Bailey Hongzhuang, victory! When the referee announced Bailey Hongzhuang's victory for the 10th time, the crowd's expression had completely changed. They did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang could complete a 10-match winning streak on the 2nd floor of the Blood Qi Tower. This was too abnormal. Bloody Rose's face turned pale. Bailey Hongzhuang had slapped her face with her strength. A 10-match winning streak was very rare in the history of the Blood Chi Tower. When she thought of what she had said before, she felt as if she had become a complete joke. Chapter 1066. Bailey Hongzhuang walked to Di Beichen's side and sat down. Her beautiful face was filled with an elegant smile. "I've been waiting for a long time." Di Beichen smiled faintly. "No matter how long I've been waiting for you, it's not too long. Your speed is already very fast." Bailey Hongzhuang's smile widened. Now, Di Beichen's words were even more pleasant to listen to. "You must be very tired from the battle just now. Why don't you take a rest and come back later?" The low and sexy voice was filled with concern and pity. The strength of the practitioners on the second floor of the Blood Chi Tower was indeed much stronger than the practitioners on the first floor. Obviously, Bailey Hongzhuang would have to spend more energy to deal with them. The second floor of the Blood Chi Tower was also more difficult than the first floor. It was not suitable for her to challenge it in her current state. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Okay. She understood Di Beichen's concern. She also knew that if she challenged the second floor in her current state, she would most likely fail. It was better to adjust her condition and come back later. He Mu immediately went to the betting area to collect their winnings. This time, they really earned a lot. When the cultivators in the spectator stands saw He Mu's actions, they were envious. That was a huge sum of money. If I had known, I would have kept betting that Bailey Hongzhuang would win. How much would I have won then? With hindsight, what's the use of saying this now? I don't know where Bailey Hongzhuang and He Mu came from. Their strength is really abnormal. Everyone sighed. There were many strong practitioners in the Blood Chi Tower, but Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were obviously the most abnormal of the abnormal. Because the two of them were not ordinary young people. After He Mu returned, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen stood up and walked out of the Blood Chi Tower. Bailey Hongzhuang stroked Baisher's fur. Speaking of which, Baisher's fur was really good to the touch. In the following days, Bailey Hongzhuang cultivated in the Blood Chi Tower every day. After He Mu came to the Blood Chi Tower, he also followed Di Beichen to improve his strength. He Mu's strength was not weak, but the Blood Chi Tower was also a good place for him to cultivate. However, the task of preparing meals every day had now fallen on He Mu. After learning that Bailey Hongzhuang had 3 gluttonous beasties, He Mu was also surprised. He had always known that a practitioner could contract with a contract beast, but he had never heard of several contract beasts contract. In his eyes, the Beichen and He Mu. In his eyes, the young master and He Beichen was not ordinary people. Compared to Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen, He Mu was undoubtedly the most obedient and the easiest to bully. Therefore, the 3 beasts were extremely happy with the arrival of He Mu. They let He Mu prepare delicious food for them all day long. Kanglin College. After Xia Jiqing finished her cultivation, her beautiful face was covered with a touch of longing. It has been 3 months since I separated from Hongzhuang. Until now, Hongzhuang has not come back. We have not received any news. I don't know when she will come back. Hongzhuang went with Di Beichen to gain experience. I believe that Di Beichen will take good care of her. Don't worry. Zhang Yunfeng said slowly. Her white and bright face also showed a look of longing. After not seeing her for 3 months, she really missed Bailey Hongzhuang. Chapter 1067. Listening to Xia Jiqing's words, Zhang Yunfeng nodded slightly. Xia Jiqing and Bailey Hongzhuang had always been very good friends. Since the two came to Kanglin College, their relationship had always been very good. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang had been away for so long, it was normal for Xia Jiqing to miss Bailey Hongzhuang. Not to mention Xia Jiqing, she also hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang could come back as soon as possible. Even if she had some misunderstandings with Bailey Hongzhuang, after experiencing so many things, she only had admiration for Bailey Hongzhuang. It shouldn't take long for her to come back. Zhang Yunfeng comforted. She should come back. Xia Jiqing's eyes flashed with a touch of worry. With Di Beichen's identity, Bailey Hongzhuang had become his wife. Her identity was naturally not ordinary. If Bailey Hongzhuang did not return to Kanglin College, then she really did not know what to do. Hearing the worry in Xia Jiqing's words, Zhang Yunfeng chuckled. You can rest assured, Hongzhuang said before that she will come back, so she will definitely come back. How can she not come back? Looking at Zhang Yunfeng's natural appearance, Xia Jiqing's eyes flashed with a bright light. Right, I must be thinking too much. Zhang Yunfeng patted Xia Jiqing's shoulder and smiled. Yes, you must be thinking too much. Xia Jiqing showed a smile. From the first time she saw Bailey Hongzhuang, she and Bailey Hongzhuang were very congenial. The time they spent together was not very long, but she regarded Bailey Hongzhuang as a real sister. She only hoped that they could continue to cultivate together in the future. At the thought of this, Xia Jiqing's expression showed a trace of determination. She must work hard to close the distance between her and Bailey Hongzhuang. Only in this way could they cultivate together in the future and progress together. Otherwise, when the gap between them was too big, even if Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to improve together with her, she could only be a burden. Yunfeng, I'm going to cultivate. Xia Jiqing's lips curved into a bright smile, and she said firmly. Looking at the brilliance on Xia Jiqing's pretty face, Zhang Yunfeng couldn't help but sigh. Since Bailey Hongzhuang left, Xia Jiqing had been particularly diligent in her cultivation. It was really like what Bailey Hongzhuang said when she left. She was constantly working hard, just waiting for Bailey Hongzhuang to see her progress. Speaking of which, Xia Jiqing's crazy cultivation also stimulated another person, that was Bai Junyu. Everyone knew that Bai Junyu liked Xia Jiqing. However, although Bai Junyu was usually very talkative, he was shy in front of Xia Jiqing. He couldn't confess at all. Although everyone was anxious for Bai Junyu, they couldn't help it. After all, this kind of thing needed to be said by the person involved. They could only help to create an opportunity for Bai Junyu and Xia Jiqing to be together. When Bai Junyu saw Xia Jiqing cultivating so hard, he naturally didn't dare to fall behind. After all, if his cultivation was surpassed by Xia Jiqing, then he wouldn't be qualified to catch up with Xia Jiqing. Therefore, everyone only saw that Bai Junyu and Xia Jiqing were both desperately cultivating. The degree of hard work made people ashamed. Lu Huayan and the two mentors were also very surprised when they saw Bai Junyu and Xia Jiqing cultivating so hard, but they were more happy. This time, the inter-school competition made them have too many emotions and understand the gap between the students. Chapter 1068. Bailey Hongzhuang had made a name for herself in the Bloodground Abyss. She had challenged 10 cultivators in the first 3 levels of the Blood Qi Tower and won 10 consecutive victories. Apart from Bailey Hongzhuang, there were very few people who could achieve such a feat. Not only that, but Bailey Hongzhuang's appearance and temperament were also superb, which was one of the reasons why she was famous. Since Di Beichen stood up for Bailey Hongzhuang on the 2nd level of the Blood Qi Tower, everyone knew that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were a celestial couple, which was really enviable. When the two of them first came to the Bloodground Abyss, many men and women wanted to provoke Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen, but after being taught a lesson by the two of them, they gradually gave up. This was because Bailey Hongzhuang's strength was already very strong in the Blood Qi Tower, not to mention Di Beichen's strength was even more unfathomable. It was really not easy to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen, so many cultivators chose to give up. It was like this in the Bloodground Abyss. If one did not show absolute strength, everyone would think that one was easy to bully. But when one showed tyrannical strength, no one would dare to find trouble with them. The law of the jungle was the rule of survival in the Bloodground Abyss. During this period of time, Bailey Hongzhuang's cultivation was also rapidly improving. Here, she did not lack elixirs, opponents, and demonic beast meat to nourish her. It was really a good opportunity to improve her strength. The trial of the Blood Qi Tower was just like what Di Beichen had told Bailey Hongzhuang. The higher the level, the more difficult it was to pass the trial. Moreover, every 3 levels increased by a level. Bailey Hongzhuang fought with the bronze men in the first 3 rounds, but the number of bronze men doubled with each level, and it became more and more difficult for her to deal with them. However, as she continued to fight with the bronze men, her close combat ability continued to improve. Not only that, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't just want to pass the trial. She wanted to use the trial to improve her fighting strength. In the beginning, Bailey Hongzhuang had to be injured to pass the trial. Later on, she was able to defeat all the bronze men without being injured. She could feel that her combat experience had increased. Di Beichen also agreed with Bailey Hongzhuang's method of training. Compared to finding an opponent in the blood refining tower, it was better to treat this trial as an opponent because the trial's level was higher and the rewards were greater. When Darkwood saw how persistent Bailey Hongzhuang was in her cultivation, he couldn't help but sigh. After following the young master for this period of time, he increasingly realized that the young master and young madam were a match made in heaven. This was because the young madam's determination and tenacity were exactly the same as the young master's. It was truly admirable. However, the only thing that made Darkwood a little helpless was the young madam's contract beasts. These 3 beasts had extraordinary appetites. Now, he had become a regular in the restaurant. He prepared meals for the young master, young madam, and the 3 beasts every day. After he realized that these 3 beasts had great appetites, he increased the amount of food he bought every day. In the end, he helplessly realized that the more he bought, the more the 3 beasts ate. Their small bodies were simply bottomless pits. No matter how much food they ate, they could eat it all. Most importantly, these 3 beasties loved to pester him on a daily basis, constantly giving him suggestions on what delicious food to buy today. Young madam has already reached the 8th level. You've already delayed quite a bit of time for young madam's training, but Tiangang's sect is also a part of the selection competition. The sect master is not here, so this matter is left to the young master. The sect has urged us several times. If we don't go back, I'm afraid there will be changes. Hei Mu looked troubled. He understood that the young master had insisted on staying in the blood-ground abyss to allow his wife to improve her strength. All this was as the young master had expected. His wife's progress was very fast, but it was too late now. Chapter 1070. However, Di Beichen and Hei Mu did not notice that outside the door, a furry ball quietly rolled by. When Bailey Hongzhuang returned to the house, she saw the 3 beasties sitting in a row on the table, one hand supporting their cheeks as they waited for her. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang return, the 3 beasties' gazes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. Seeing this scene, Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly, and a glimmer of light flashed through her deep eyes. She moved a chair and sat directly in front of the 3 beasties. "What's the matter? Speak." Once she saw the posture of these 3 beasties, she knew that something must have happened to them. After being together for so long, she understood the 3 beasties very well. "Master, when I went to look for Hei Mu earlier, I heard the conversation between Hei Mu and Di Beichen. It seems that Tiangang's sect has something that requires Di Beichen to return. However, Di Beichen has not returned because of your trial. Now, Tiangang's sect's urging is getting more and more urgent." As she spoke, Xiao Hei's gaze could not help but fall on Bailey Hongzhuang's face, paying attention to Bailey Hongzhuang's expression. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was also slightly stunned for a moment. She did not know that there was such a thing. Di Beichen did not tell her, and she did not notice that there was anything wrong. Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but feel a little vexed. During this period of time, she had put all her energy into the trial and neglected so many things. Hei Mu had always stood on Di Beichen and her side. Since Hei Mu said so, the matter at Tiangang's sect must be very urgent. Di Beichen had been accompanying her here for her trial. She actually did not notice that Di Beichen had done so many things for her. Although her trial was important, Tiangang's sect's matter was obviously more important. Besides, the trial had always been here. Even if she came back a few days later to participate in the trial, there was nothing wrong with it. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang turned around and walked towards the house next door. Di Beichen had done so many things for her. She couldn't let Di Beichen continue to do so for her. For Di Beichen, Tiangang Zone was a very meaningful existence. Di Beichen had always admired and respected the most. The sect master handed over Tiangang's sect to Di Beichen because he trusted Di Beichen. If Di Beichen had any regrets because of her, that would be the last thing she wanted. Di Beichen was devoted to her, and she also wanted Di Beichen to be happy. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang leave without saying a word, the three beasties quickly jumped off the table and followed behind Bailey Hongzhuang. Knock knock. Bailey Hongzhuang knocked on the door, and Di Beichen quickly opened the door. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen's perfect and gentle face also revealed a refined and handsome smile. "Wife, you're back." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and walked into the house. However, just as the three beasties were about to follow in, they found that the door was closed. The three of them were blocked outside just like that. Xiao He stared at the closed door with wide eyes. "We're blocked outside the house." Xiao Bai was also very puzzled. They usually followed behind Master. Why did Master leave them outside the door today? Did we do something to upset Master? Chapter 1071. Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and Baisher looked at each other. They really didn't know how to answer Baisher's question. After thinking for a while, Xiao Bai reluctantly admitted, "It's possible." When they were with Master, they were afraid that Master would despise them, so they ate in a more refined manner. Ever since He Mu came, they were unrestrained. Anyway, He Mu was the easiest to deal with and was obedient. Was this the price of being willful? However, the three little fellows had obviously guessed wrong. Bailey Hongzhuang's thoughts were very simple. She wanted to communicate with Di Beichen properly. Now that their relationship had warmed up, Di Beichen really liked holding her in his arms. At this time, it would be fine if it was just the two of them, but the three little beasts were watching from behind. This was really a little embarrassing. As Bailey Hongzhuang walked into the house, Di Beichen also noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's expression. What was his wife thinking? Just as Di Beichen was about to ask, a fragrant wind suddenly blew over. Bailey Hongzhuang hugged him. Lowering his head to look at the person in his arms, Di Beichen's gaze softened. However, there was a trace of nervousness in his deep and charming eyes. "Wife, what happened?" Di Beichen wrapped his arms around Bailey Hongzhuang's slender waist. His deep and magnetic voice was filled with worry. Could it be that his wife had been wronged outside today? "Why are you so good to me?" Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful face was pressed against Di Beichen's chest. Her voice was muffled, a little depressed, and a little pained. Ever since she got together with Di Beichen had always been considerate of her and accommodated her. No matter when or where, Di Beichen was always meticulous with her. He helped her raise her cultivation level and helped her understand the mystery of her birth. In comparison, she did not treat Di Beichen as well. Hearing this, the corners of Di Beichen's mouth revealed a light smile, but his eyes became even more gentle and doting. "You came here just to ask me why I'm so nice to you?" Bailey Hongzhuang just hugged Di Beichen tightly and did not answer. "You are my wife, the only woman that I, Di Beichen, love in my life. If I don't treat you well, who should I treat well?" Di Beichen's smile was light, but his dark eyes were full of deep affection. Bailey Hongzhuang was his treasure, and he wanted to treat her well all the time. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were slightly moist. She felt a little stifled, but deep in her eyes, there was a smile that came from the bottom of her heart. She was so lucky to meet him in the vast sea of people, fall in love with him, and become the love of his heart. It was only now that she understood how Di Beichen felt when he said that he was very grateful to Li Qingqian. She was also grateful to Li Qingqian now. If it were not for Li Qingqian, they might not have interacted so much, and she would have missed such a perfect man. Di Beichen saw that Bailey Hongzhuang in his arms only lowered her head and did not speak. He could not help but bend down to look at Bailey Hongzhuang. "Wife, what's wrong?" However, when Di Beichen saw that Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were vaguely moist, his heart ached. "Beichen." Bailey Hongzhuang opened her mouth and looked up at Di Beichen. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to speak, Di Beichen covered her red lips with his. She tossed and turned. Chapter 1072. When Di Beichen let go of Bailey Hongzhuang's cheeks were flushed and her eyes were blurred. A pair of watery eyes stared at Di Beichen, making Di Beichen's heart melt into water. Di Beichen directly carried Bailey Hongzhuang to the side and sat down, while Bailey Hongzhuang also sat on Di Beichen's lap. Quietly hugging Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen's handsome and gentle face rippled with a light and soft smile. "Wife, don't breathe and think nonsense in the future." Bailey Hongzhuang leaned on Di Beichen's chest and nodded slightly. When the blurred eyes returned to clarity, Bailey Hongzhuang sat up straight and her beautiful face was tinged with a trace of seriousness. "Tiangang's sect has something to ask you to go back?" Di Beichen's dark and deep handsome eyes flashed with a faint light. "You know." At this moment Di Beichen understood why Hongzhuang had such a reaction just now. "Since Tiangang's sect has something urgent to ask you to go back, then let's go back first. We can come back for this trial any time." Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes stared at Di Beichen, her beautiful face showing some helplessness. "I know you are good to me, and I don't want to affect your business because of me." At first, Di Beichen left Tiangang's sect and came to Phone Bo country because he had no choice. Now that Di Beichen's leg disease has been cured, he should have returned to Tiangang's sect long ago. Just because he wanted to be by her side, Di Beichen had never gone back. Although she had never heard any news about Tiangang's sect from Di Beichen and Heimu, she also knew that as the young lord of Tiangang's sect, Di Beichen had been outside for a long time without returning, which would definitely cause a lot of dissatisfaction. "This time, the Tiangang's sect does have something for me to return to, but I hope that you can complete the trial. Once you get the inheritance of the Blood Chi Tower, it will be of great help to you." Di Beichen's eyes darkened. There was a flicker of light in his deep eyes, but it was too obscure for Bailey Hongzhuang to see it clearly. "It's okay. I'll have a chance in the future too." Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferent. She naturally wanted to obtain the inheritance of the Blood Chi Tower, but the last level of the trial was too difficult to break through. Although the first 8 levels were difficult, she was able to overcome them. However, facing the 9th level of the trial, she felt powerless. However, she still believed that she would be able to pass. For them now, it was obvious that Di Beichen's return to Tiangang's sect was the most important thing. As for other things, they could put them aside for the time being. It wouldn't be too late to return to the Bloodground Abyss after everything was done. After all, she was also full of curiosity about the other training ground in the Bloodground Abyss. She believed that she would definitely return to Tiangang's sect in the future. "Don't you want to know why I'm returning to Tiangang's sect this time?" Di Beichen asked with a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyes and blinked. "If you want to tell me, I'm naturally willing to listen. The selection competition that happens once every 5 years is about to begin." Di Beichen's eyes were distant and deep, and his handsome face revealed a trace of complexity. "Selection competition?" Bailey Hongzhuang was a little puzzled. "The internal selection competition of Tiangang's sect?" Di Beichen shook his head slightly. "Every sect needs fresh blood. Therefore, the selection competition that happens once every 5 years is a competition that every sect specially prepares to recruit young cultivators." Chapter 1073. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with wisdom. A sect's recruitment of new blood had always been a grand affair. Just as sect's recruitment of disciples was already a grand occasion. Furthermore, according to Bewitching's words, this was a joint recruitment of all the sections. One could imagine the scale of this event. It could be called a grand occasion in the Xingqian continent. That's right. Bewitching nodded. Every time a sect recruits a disciple, it's always very eye-catching. Any cultivator with strength would want to give it a try. Bailey Hongzhuang stared at Bewitching. You hope that I can complete the trial for the selection competition? She immediately understood. If all the outstanding cultivators in the Xingqian continent were to gather, then the competition in this selection competition would be extremely fierce. If one wanted to stand out, they would undoubtedly have to be the best of the younger generation. Bewitching held Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. According to my selfishness, I hope that you can directly enter the Tiangang sect with me. Following Bewitching's words, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression became somewhat complicated. According to my understanding, the Tiangang sect has never directly recruited disciples. The Tiangang sect was famous in the Xingqian continent. To be able to become a disciple of the Tiangang sect was the dream of many cultivators. Once one became a disciple of the Tiangang sect, it was no different from a carp leaping through the dragon's gate. It could be said to bring honor to one's ancestors. Not only that, the cultivation resources in the Tiangang sect were far more abundant than outside. Cultivating in the Tiangang sect would allow one's strength to rise much faster than outside. Bailey Hongzhuang naturally wanted to go to the Tiangang sect. Not only because of the abundant cultivation resources, but also because Bewitching was the young sect master of the Tiangang sect. As long as she could stay in the Tiangang sect with Bewitching, then many problems would be solved. Those who wanted to secretly scheme would have no chance to take advantage of it. However, she was even more aware that once she was directly arranged by Bewitching to become a disciple of the Tiangang sect, it would undoubtedly attract the criticism of everyone. Those cultivators who coveted Bewitching's position as the young master would definitely take this opportunity to attack Bewitching, and Bewitching, as the young master of Tiangang sect, would also end up with the title of covering up for his wife, unable to distinguish right from wrong. Most importantly, Han Xiling was also there. In front of her love rival, she had her own dignity. What she wanted was to stand upright in front of Bewitching and not let anyone have a chance to attack her. More importantly, she wanted to prove to Han Xiling that she, Bailey Hongzhuang, was the right person for Bewitching. Therefore, she couldn't just go in like this. She didn't want to leave such a topic of discussion when she confronted Han Xiling in the future. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's expression, Bewitching had already understood Bailey Hongzhuang's plan. In fact, from the beginning, he had already guessed that Bailey Hongzhuang would make such a decision. He couldn't be more clear about his wife's temperament. She was proud, especially her dignity, which couldn't be trampled on. Not only that, she was so persistent about their feelings for each other that she wouldn't let anyone have a chance to attack her. This was his wife, Bewitching. Perhaps she was a little stubborn, but it was precisely because of this stubbornness that made people feel even more heartache and love her deeply. It was precisely because of this that he hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang could obtain the inheritance of the Blood Qi Tower. In this way, Bailey Hongzhuang's strength would increase, and her safety would also increase a lot. To him, the most important thing was Bailey Hongzhuang's safety. Chapter 1074. You want to participate in this year's selection? Bewitching stared at Bailey Hongzhuang, his dark eyes flashing with a complicated light. Although it was a question, Bewitching's tone was firm. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her phoenix eyes and stared at Bewitching. She nodded slightly. I want to participate. Wife, you know that I'm not afraid of others talking behind my back. I only hope that you can safely stay by my side. Bewitching's voice was deep and magnetic. He looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a sincere gaze. Over the years, he had been through a lot. He didn't care about ordinary words. Bailey Hongzhuang wrapped her arms around Bewitching's neck. I understand, but I want to stand by your side. The next time I see Han Xiling, I will defeat her. Her deep and beautiful eyes were filled with a firm and decisive light. The last time Han Xiling saw her, she still remembered clearly the disdain she showed. No matter how proud Han Xiling was, her pride wasn't any less than Han Xiling's. The battle between her and Han Xiling would eventually come to an end. During this period of time, Han Xiling had done so many things behind her back. She clearly remembered it all. She had never been a generous person, especially to her enemies. The next time they met, she would crush Han Xiling's pride. Di Beichen nodded slightly. He understood Bailey Hongzhuang's determination. Therefore, he didn't try to persuade her anymore. In fact, he also understood that participating in the selection was a good experience for Bailey Hongzhuang. If Bailey Hongzhuang obtained good results in the selection, then she would enter everyone's eyes. Because the selection had always been important, the first place of each selection would become famous in the Xingxian continent and become the target of all the sections. This choice was actually not wrong. No matter what kind of results Bailey Hongzhuang obtains, as long as she can legitimately enter Tiangang Zone, it is also a good thing. He didn't care about other people's attacks on him, but Tiangang's sect was also not peaceful. What he didn't want to see the most was Bailey Hongzhuang being attacked. If that happened, his heart would ache. I support your decision. Di Beichen smiled faintly. No matter what Bailey Hongzhuang did, he would support her. Thank you, Beichen. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes shone with a trace of emotion. This was her persistence, and even more fortunately, Di Beichen had always supported her. There's no need for thanks between you and me. Di Beichen rubbed Bailey Hongzhuang's soft hand, but his eyes were filled with seriousness and seriousness. Wife, regarding the Lan family, I found some news. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes suddenly froze. Her beautiful face also had a moment of stagnation. What news? Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was indifferent, but there was a trace of uncontrollable nervousness in the depths of her eyes. She had always been curious about her background, especially when she found out that her biological parents were forced to leave her in front of the general's estate. She was even more worried about her parents' safety. However, with the platform she had touched, it was simply not enough for her to have the opportunity to understand the Lan family. The Lan family was the true colossus of the Xingxian continent. Their foundation was stable and complicated. It was extremely difficult to understand them. The current her had yet to reach that level. Chapter 1075. Hearing Di Beichen's words, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood. So you're saying that as long as I drip my blood on this jade pendant, I'll know if I'm a descendant of the Lan family? Bailey Hongzhuang took out the jade pendant. Her pretty face was filled with astonishment. She didn't think that the Lan family would have such a miraculous method. It seems that the Lan family really didn't have a problem with their bloodline. Di Beichen nodded. That's right. You can give it a try. Alright, I'll give it a try. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. She placed the jade pendant on the table and took out a sharp blade. She had bought this sharp blade when she had obtained the parchment scroll. Now that she had it in her hands, it would occasionally be of use. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's curious expression, Di Beichen's deep, handsome eyes were filled with seriousness and depth. After asking around, he had a good understanding of the Lan family's secrets. However, this secret was far too heavy. If possible, he hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't really a descendant of the Lan family. Otherwise, Bailey Hongzhuang would have to bear too many burdens. When he thought of Bailey Hongzhuang's humiliated childhood, he found it hard to imagine how such a petite girl would bear all the burden of the Lan family's grievances. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't notice Di Beichen's expression. She was completely focused on the jade pendant. At this point, other than Qin Yayan's diary and this jade pendant, there was no other evidence to prove her identity. Therefore, she really wanted to know who her biological parents were. If she really was a descendant of the Lan family, then everything would become clear. The sharp blade cut Bailey Hongzhuang's finger and a drop of blood immediately appeared. However, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't even frown. She immediately dripped the drop of blood onto the jade pendant. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's eyes fell upon the jade pendant. They both wanted to know the final result. The jade pendant was snow white and almost transparent. It was exquisite and soft to the touch. Bailey Hongzhuang knew at first glance that this jade pendant was something good. However, she didn't expect it to have such an effect. Not long after the drop of blood had dripped onto the jade pendant, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen realized that the drop of blood had gradually seeped into the jade pendant. The originally sparkling and translucent jade pendant was stained red. Seeing this scene, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart skipped a beat. It seemed that Di Beichen's judgment was right from the start. This jade pendant really was the Lan family's keepsake, and she really was a descendant of the Lan family. Di Beichen's expression also changed. He didn't expect all of this to be true. Bailey Hongzhuang picked up the jade pendant. The change of this jade pendant was really magical. After it was stained with a little blood, she found that gradually, the blood was also fading, and eventually it became the original white color. However, that drop of blood had turned into a bright red mark on the jade pendant, adding a trace of uniqueness. Bailey Hongzhuang turned around. Her exquisite and perfect face revealed a trace of emotion. It seems that I really am a member of the Lan family. In that case, Lan Yunxiao is my father. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang had already confirmed her identity. Aside from this, there was no other possibility. Di Beichen nodded slightly with a complicated expression. It seems that you really are a member of the Lan family. Chapter 1076. Originally, Bailey Hongzhuang was very curious about her identity. Now that she had confirmed it, she was even more curious about the Lan family. She wanted to know why Lan Yunxiao and the Lan family had turned against each other and why the Lan family had chased after them. She knew that everything would be very heavy, but no matter how heavy the truth was, she had to find out. Because that was what she had to bear. Di Beichen sank into silence. When he first learned of this news, even his heart was hard to conceal. He was afraid that after Hongzhuang learned of this, Bailey Hongzhuang sized up Di Beichen. When she saw the obscure light in Di Beichen's eyes, her expression changed. Beichen, there are some things that I was born to bear. It's destined that I can't escape from them. I know that something very serious must have happened when father took us away from the Lan family. No matter how hard it is to accept, I can bear it. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was heavy. After being with Di Beichen for so long, she had long developed a tacit understanding with him. Just by looking at Di Beichen's expression, she could guess some things. She was afraid that the reason behind this was more complicated than she thought, and more difficult to accept. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's resolute expression, Di Beichen muttered to himself for a moment before nodding. Hongzhuang, I will tell you everything, but you must be mentally prepared. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded, her voice gentle and calm. I'll be fine. Back then, the Lan family's patriarch, Lan Yangqiu, had two sons. The eldest, Lan Jingquang, had outstanding strength and a steady but treacherous personality. Lan Yunxiao was the youngest son that Lan Yangqiu had always been proud of. He had an extraordinary bearing and outstanding talent. Although Lan Jingquang's strength wasn't bad, he wasn't as well liked as Lan Yunxiao. Not only that, Lan Yunxiao was already Lan Yangqiu's favorite successor, and the entire Lan family recognized him as the young master. Under these circumstances, Lan Jingquang was naturally unwilling to accept it. However, the entire family supported Lan Yunxiao, so he could only endure it. Later on, Lan Jingquang married Yu Manlan, the direct descendant daughter of the Yu family, and gave birth to Lan Qingyan. And your father, Lan Yunxiao, married your mother, Mu Lingbing. Mu Lingbing didn't come from an illustrious family like Yu Manlan, but she was also an outstanding cultivator. She was an outstanding disciple of Sun Moon Palace, and she gave birth to you. Bailey Hongzhuang quietly listened to Di Beichen's narration. She had already guessed that what happened to her parents must have something to do with Lan Jingquang. However, she couldn't figure out what kind of method they used to deal with her. With Lan Yunxiao's reputation in the Lan family, it was reasonable to say that if something happened, everyone should stand on his side and support him. What kind of method did Lan Jingquang use to hurt her parents and make the entire family stand on his side and her parents become enemies with the entire Lan family? The more Bailey Hongzhuang thought about it, the more complicated it all became. Wife, do you still remember your dantian shattering? Di Beichen suddenly asked. Chapter 1077. Everyone was only curious about this matter in private. The more they thought about it, the more they felt that the possibility was not small. However, no one dared to confirm it. If it's true, then it's too terrifying. Back then, the emperor fell into the cycle of reincarnation because of the goddess. If we're facing such a storm because of the goddess, then wouldn't we have a war with the god realm? Why is that? Kosie asked in puzzlement. Are you stupid? The woman looked at him helplessly. The goddess is now married to the emperor. She is now our infernal queen. This means that the goddess also plans to be with the emperor. If the celestial realm is unwilling, the emperor will not let his wife go. Then, wouldn't a war be inevitable? Previously, because of the matter with the Fourth Highness, the flames of war had just been extinguished. I never expected that we would have to face the celestial realm again. The woman sighed faintly. Once they fought, it would be inevitable that people would be plunged into misery and suffering. If that's really the case, then the goddess is a femme fatale. Bailey Hongzhuang's appearance surfaced in Kosie's mind. Thinking about it carefully, she really had the qualifications to be a femme fatale. With such a beautiful face, how many men would be willing to give up everything for her? Previously, she felt that the fact that she and Kitsune could wait for the infernal emperor for so many years, no matter how she looked at it, Bailey Hongzhuang would be dealt a blow by this relationship. This was because how long had she been with the infernal emperor? It was at most a few decades. How could it be compared to a relationship that had lasted more than 100 years? Furthermore, she came from a small place. No matter how she looked at it, she was not worthy of the emperor. This inferiority complex was unavoidable, but there was no such thing in her. It was as though she had never felt inferior before. It was as though all these emotions did not belong to her. She was so confident that it made them feel ashamed. How can a person from a lower plane have such powerful alchemy skills? Have you forgotten that the goddess is the #1 alchemist in the celestial realm? The woman's words woke everyone up. The infernal queen's alchemy skills were so exquisite that it shocked them. Logically speaking, it was impossible for the infernal queen to have such exquisite alchemy skills. Even if she was a genius, it was impossible for her to understand the infernal realm's alchemy skills in such a short period of time. However, if she was the goddess, then everything could be explained. Whether it was the divine world or the devil world, everyone was very clear about the goddess' alchemy skills. She was extremely outstanding. No matter whether it was her strength or alchemy skills, she was an existence that others could only look up to. Back then, when they found out that the demon emperor, who had never been attracted to women, had fallen in love with the goddess, their first reaction wasn't that the two of them weren't compatible at all. Instead, they felt that the two of them were too compatible. This was clearly an alliance between the strong and the strong. Why was it that after so many years, no woman could move the devil emperor's heart? Because those women were not worthy at all. The goddess was the most outstanding woman in the entire celestial realm. For so many years, she had been pure and had few desires. Yet, she had fallen in love with their infernal emperor. Everyone felt that this was a good combination. It was just that no one expected such a thing to happen. Kosie, who originally thought that it was impossible, could no longer refute. Why was Bailey Hongzhuang always so confident when she saw them? Why did Kitsune choose to give up after chatting with her once? Chapter 1078. Then, Lan Qingyan successfully integrated with the Rainbow Pearl? Bailey Hongzhuang looked up at Di Beichen. She had already heard from Di Beichen that Lan Qingyan was the representative of the Lan family. Now, Lan Qingyan was also one of the most outstanding cultivators in the entire Xingxian continent. According to this, she was almost certain of this result. However, she instinctively hoped that Lan Qingyan did not succeed in the integration. This truth was much more tragic than any of the truths she had imagined before, and it was impossible for her to accept. Di Beichen looked deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang. From Bailey Hongzhuang's fluctuating gaze, he knew that Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was not calm. Just like how he found it hard to accept when he first found out about this truth. Moreover, this was something that Bailey Hongzhuang had to bear since she was born. That's right. Di Beichen said slowly, Yu Manlan's medical skills are also very good. However, this matter seemed to be the result of Yu Manlan's discussion with the Yu family. The Yu family was also involved in the plot to kill you. At that time, the Yu family had a godly doctor living in the Lan family. However, everyone in the Lan family only treated it as a visit and did not take it to heart. Presumably, that person was here to help Lan Qingyan integrate with the Rainbow Pearl. Bailey Hongzhuang's heart sank. Her nails were already deeply embedded in her palms. Dark red blood gradually flowed out and crescent-shaped marks appeared on her palms. However, in the face of such pain, Bailey Hongzhuang did not seem to feel it. This was because the pain in her heart was far more intense than the pain in her hands. According to the information I received, Lan Qingyan also did not succeed in the integration. Other than a specific successor, no one else's Dantian could integrate with the Rainbow Pearl. Although the Yu family's medical skills are top-notch, they did not have a way to help Lan Qingyan integrate with the Rainbow Pearl. They only used a special method to integrate the Rainbow Pearl into Lan Qingyan's body. Even so, Lan Qingyan's cultivation talent is still amazing. It's not hard to imagine how great your cultivation talent would be with your Rainbow Dantian. Di Beichen couldn't hide the pain in his eyes. He had never thought that his beloved wife would suffer all this. Originally, she was supposed to be the genius young miss of the Lan family, an outstanding figure among the young cultivators of the entire Xingxian continent. She should have lived a life of luxury since she was young, enjoying the love of her family and the admiring gazes of young cultivators. However, because of this, Bailey Hongzhuang became a trash that everyone despised and ridiculed. She grew up in humiliation. Her status was no different from falling from heaven to hell. Wife, you, Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's pale little face. He just wanted to hold Bailey Hongzhuang in his arms. She looked so fragile, as if she could faint at any time. If he could, he really hoped that he could bear all of this in place of Bailey Hongzhuang. However, in the face of the past, he couldn't do anything. Compared to what Bailey Hongzhuang was going through at the moment, his words of comfort had no effect. Because, in this kind of situation, other than the person involved who could understand the pain she was going through, no one else could. Chapter 1079. Blood gradually flowed from her palms, spreading along her fingers. However, the strength of Bailey Hongzhuang's clenched hands did not loosen at all. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang like this, Di Beichen understood that the most important thing now was to tell Bailey Hongzhuang everything. The reason why he wanted Hongzhuang to obtain the inheritance was also because of Bailey Hongzhuang's background. This kind of enmity was as deep as the ocean. If she didn't take revenge, Hongzhuang wouldn't be happy for the rest of her life. Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing couldn't accept the news. Lan Yunxiao was furious and directly attacked Lan Jing. As for Mu Lingbing, she was on the verge of collapse when she saw you on the verge of death in swaddling clothes. The entire Lan family was shaken because of this. No one dared to believe that Lan Jingquang and Yu Manlan would do such a thing. The Lan family head, Lan Yangqiu, was furious and wanted to punish Lan Jingquang and Yu Manlan. However, Lan Yunxiao demanded that they die. Unfortunately, the Yu family also came out to take a look. This was the plan that the Yu family and Lan Jingquang had discussed for a long time. They had already prepared everything. Although the Lan family's cultivators knew that Lan Jingquang had wronged you, Lan Qingyan had already obtained the power of the Rainbow Pearl. The Lan family couldn't give up on the inheritance. Lan Yunxiao demanded an eye for an eye and destroyed Lan Qingyan's dantian. The entire family stopped Lan Yunxiao, who then went on a killing spree and completely broke off relations with the Lan family. Lan Yunxiao's strength was outstanding in the entire Lan family. At that time, the Lan family also lost a group of cultivators. However, Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing were no match for them. Later on, although Lan Yangqiu urged Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing to stay, they couldn't stay any longer. Bailey Hongzhuang bit her lip. She could imagine how tragic that scene was. Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing had always treated her like a treasure in their palms, treasuring her at all times. Her father was an extraordinary figure with an illustrious reputation in the entire Xingxian continent. Her mother was a rare beauty with a resounding reputation. As an outstanding disciple of the Sun Moon Palace, although she didn't have an illustrious family background, she was still an outstanding woman. When they saw their daughter, who was originally blessed by the ancestors of the Lan family, being treated in such a manner and being on the verge of death, their hearts collapsed and the hatred that seeped into their bones grew even stronger. Especially Lan Yunxiao. He was once the Lan family's family head and was the center of attention. However, after such a thing happened, he couldn't even get justice for his daughter. What kind of irony was this? She could understand why Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing had broken off all relations with the Lan family at the cost of their lives. If it wasn't for his existence, they would have killed Lan Jingquang and the others even if they had to risk their lives. However, they had to take her away because she was what kind forbearance, the feeling, falling from heaven to hell. And all of this was because of Lan Jingquang's family. Bailey Hongzhuang only felt a burst of pain in her heart. She simply couldn't imagine the scene back then. The burning desire in her chest almost burned her to ashes. Chapter 1080. After Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing took you away, you were too young and your dantian was destroyed. This kind of injury was too serious for you to bear. Thus, Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing ran all over the place to save you. In the entire Xingxian continent, the Yu family is the most skilled in medicine. At that time, your parents could only swallow their anger and ask the Yu family for help when you were on the verge of death. With every sentence Bewitching spoke, the unbearable feeling in his heart intensified. Compared to the treatment Bailey Hongzhuang received at the general's estate, Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing practically treated Bailey Hongzhuang as their lives. They clearly knew that the Yu family was involved in this matter, but for the sake of Bailey Hongzhuang, they were willing to throw away their dignity just so that Bailey Hongzhuang could live. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's clear eyes gradually became moist. Lan Yunxiao, what kind of proud man was he? He actually begged his enemies to lend a helping hand for her sake. From what the Yu family had done to her, it was clear how vicious they were. Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing had probably suffered all kinds of humiliation when they asked for help. The Yu family didn't agree. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly spoke, her low and cold voice filled with forbearance and resentment. This kind of result was almost certain. If the Yu family really wanted to treat her, they would have done so when they obtained the Rainbow Pearl. Why would they wait until later? Bewitching nodded. The Yu family refused. Not only that, they began to hunt down your family to eliminate the root of the problem. You should know what happened after that. Bailey Hongzhuang lowered her eyes. Her long and curly eyelashes were like palm leaf fans, leaving a shadow on Bailey Hongzhuang's face. Her delicate face did not reveal any expression, but Bewitching could feel the murderous aura emanating from Bailey Hongzhuang. It was a murderous aura that was so dense that it was shocking. Even he could not help but be moved when he sensed this murderous aura. From this, one could see how much Bailey Hongzhuang hated Lan Jingquang and the others. Bailey Hongzhuang understood that it was precisely because of the Yu clan's cultivators that Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing had been fleeing for their lives. In the end, they could only leave her at the entrance of the general's estate. Then, are my parents still alive? Bailey Hongzhuang's voice trembled. Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing had given up everything for her. Right now, what she wanted to know the most was whether they were still alive and whether they would have a chance to meet again. Di Beichen's face darkened. I'm not sure about that either. However, I got a clue that they might have been locked up by the Yu clan. The Yu clan? Bailey Hongzhuang furrowed her brows, a trace of worry on her face. If they've fallen into the Yu clan's hands, they will definitely eliminate them completely. Di Beichen shook his head slightly. According to the information I received, Lan Jingquang would occasionally visit the Yu clan. I think it's very likely that he went there to mock Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing. After all, he was suppressed by Lan Yunxiao for so many years. When he finally made a comeback, he would want to show off his achievements. How can you be so sure? Bailey Hongzhuang's brows were still tightly knitted. Although this was a possibility, it was not enough to confirm it. Chapter 1081. Following Di Beichen's words, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression changed. She immediately understood. So Lan Jingquang has been humiliating my parents all these years? Bailey Hongzhuang became even more furious. She didn't expect Lan Jingquang to be so despicable as to do such a thing. She could imagine that if Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing had fallen into Lan Jingquang's hands, Lan Jingquang would definitely humiliate and torture them in every possible way. This kind of despicable and treacherous fellow usually pretended to be kind, but behind the scenes, he did all sorts of evil things. It was obvious how sinister his heart was. Di Beichen hugged Bailey Hongzhuang tightly. He had been afraid that Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't be able to accept the truth. No one would be able to accept this kind of thing in a short period of time. Especially for children like them who thought they had been abandoned. When Bailey Hongzhuang found out that her parents had done so under such helpless circumstances, one could imagine the fluctuations in her heart. Wife, no matter what, at least this proves that your parents are still alive. Di Beichen's voice was gentle and carried a calming comfort. At this time, he couldn't do anything other than comfort her. Feeling Di Beichen's warm embrace, the agitated Bailey Hongzhuang calmed down a little. Di Beichen always had the power to make her feel at ease. That's right, you're right. At least they're still alive. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. This could be considered a fortune amidst misfortune. As long as they were still alive, they would be able to meet again one day. Beichen, do we have a way to save my parents? Bailey Hongzhuang looked up at Di Beichen. She couldn't accept the fact that Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing were suffering in the Yu clan. Every day of that kind of torture was torture, let alone the fact that they had been trapped in the Yu clan for so many years. Di Beichen placed his hands on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulders, his obsidian-like eyes gazing at Bailey Hongzhuang. Wife, I will do my best. In reality, he had wanted to save Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing ever since he had confirmed this news. However, the Yu clan had done this in secret. Lan Jingquang naturally knew that if this matter was discovered, he would have to bear the consequences. Very serious. Therefore, he and the Yu clan had sealed the news very tightly. He had spent a tremendous amount of effort just to obtain this information. He had even used some of his secret connections and many people to invite him over. Under these circumstances, he had succeeded in understanding more. However, it was too difficult to save Lan Yunxiao and Lan and Mu Lingbing. Not only, it was, to find out where the Yu clans had. The Yu clan was an extraordinary clan in the entire Xingxian continent. One could imagine how powerful their defenses were. A clan with such a background would have a few powerful old fellows overseeing it. As long as there were even the slightest clues, it was very likely that they would be discovered. Not to mention saving them in this kind of situation. Although he wanted to save them, it wasn't easy to do so. The Yu clan's actions were too secretive. It would take some time to rescue them. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart sank. She also sobered up a little. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.